Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out to attend the second visioning session for the area that the Derry Planning Board is looking at in regard to rezoning. Before we start anything, if everyone could rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pace, so this is better. Okay. So before we begin, just if everyone could please silence any cell phones, just regular meeting etiquette. If you need convenience facilities and aren't aware of where they are, ladies' room is off to the side of the stairway, and men's room is around the rotunda to the other side. If there's an emergency in the building and you need assistance, please wait at the top of the stairs for assistance and do not use the elevator. So tonight, we're going to do, for those who attended the first session and came back, thank you. And welcome everyone who's new this evening. What we're gonna do, we're gonna talk a little bit of why we're here. For those who were at the first session, you're gonna hear a lot of the same things. We'll do a very quick recap from the last session, give an overview of the Exit 4A project. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on that. And then a real quick planning and zoning, and then we want your input. That's really why we're here this evening. So goals of the sessions. The purpose really is to talk about zoning changes, things like permitted uses, architectural design requirements, setbacks, things like that. We're also here to see if there's anything that we should include in our next master plan update. And we're also looking at things that the board would consider during their next public input sessions. Right now, if we're looking at any zoning changes, the planning board would look to gather the input from this session and from the next session, which will be on the 24th. And we're going to pull all of that information together and bring it all back for a larger visioning session to really kind of refine the vision sometime in April. From there, the planning board will start looking at all of the information, suggestions, concerns that have been presented and start thinking about potential zoning changes. Anything that we would propose for a zoning change would not make it through planning board or town council until probably August of this year. So things we heard last time. Biggest concerns, loss of character, overcrowding, and traffic. When we asked what some suggested uses or aesthetics might be, we heard keep the residential neighborhood. And I do want to say we focused generally on the residential area right on Folsom, right near, as you're heading from Franklin Street Extension up towards the police station. Potential uses in these areas could be hotel, biomed, smaller buildings for industrial, commercial, manufacturing, keep things one story, keep parking lots to the rear and make sure that there's residential buffering. So what is the gateway? This is not a zoning map. What we're looking at are the three distinct areas that we've been talking about or will talk about during the visioning sessions. The area in the yellows are the ones we talked about during the first visioning session. Tonight, we're going to focus on the two green areas, and then the last section on the 24th will be the area in blue. So Derry is going to have a new exit off of 93. That's exit 4A. Review of this area was part of it was a master plan goal, and we've also been asked by town council to take a look at this area to see where we can improve things for economic development. Exit 4A. This is it. This is contract B. Contract A was the portion that came off of 93 through Londonderry down to the Derry town line. What you see here goes from that portion all the way through Franklin, up Folsom, to Crystal Ave, Pinkerton Street, and then it ends just beyond that. The reason that we have, or the purpose of 4A, was to reduce congestion and improve traffic, promote economic vitality in Derry and Londonderry. What we get are project improvements. We have the new interchange with the easterly access into Derry. We get a 4-lane new connector road, that's the old Rum Trail. We have the improvements along Folsom and Chenito, and we're also going to, all of that construction will, the drainage and all of that will meet the MS4 requirements that we're required to meet for federal law. The end result is we do get that new connector. We're going to get 3 new bridges, a coordinated traffic system, enhanced capacity, and an $8 million project that we paid $5 million for. And I do want to point out that this is a state-managed project. This is not a Derry project. So the DOT has jurisdiction over things like utility poles, drainage, traffic flow and design, intersection alignment, road width, the rail trail design, and if there are going to be any noise mitigation measures, the state will design those. Town of Derry will be in charge at the end of the day of the local street traffic, which includes things like signage requests for one-way streets. We'll maintain the right-of-way once it's completed. And during this process, we can take feedback on architectural design suggestions, residential buffers, property uses. With regard to traffic, pardon me 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm not going to read everything because that's boring. I want to point out that all of these slides are now available on the Derry Planning Board page under the Gateway tab. There was an environmental impact statement done. They did look at traffic. It was a very extensive traffic analysis. It looked at traffic pre-build, post-build, no build. And the traffic counts went out to estimated what traffic would look like if this was all constructed and what we would get by 2040. And the end result is that we're going to have anticipate like 18,000 more vehicle trips per day along that interchange. Right now, the construction that you're looking at right now will go through 2025, and that's including utilities, off-road improvements. And I want to point out that the road is intended primarily to be 2 lanes in either direction with turn lanes in a median. So the 7 lanes that I referred to at the last meeting were mostly intended to be right at the intersections, not the whole width. So I apologize if that was misunderstood. So heading into through 26 and 28, we're going to finish Folsom Road to Pinkerton Street, and that will include a new light at Pinkerton. Contract C will start just past that. We don't have a timeline for that. They haven't started to design it, to the best of my knowledge. But once they do start working on Chenito, it's going to be, the 2 lanes on each side up to the Irving intersection. Beyond Irving, it's still going to be 1 lane on each side as it is today, just a little bit wider. You will see some construction out there this summer. That is not going to be Exit 4A construction. That's a town project. We're going to be extending water all the way up Chenito to 102. So why we're here, let's get back to that. There are 3 distinct areas in the Gateway District. They're all shown on the wall or up here. This area is characterized by, and we're talking about the areas in the green. We have a lot of single-family homes in there, multifamily. We have industrial and commercial uses, such as breweries, the excavation company, light manufacturing. We have wholesale distribution. We have opportunities here for reinvestment, aggregation of property, and maybe new leases of land. Your zoning in this area is industrial 4, 6, and MHDR2, which is single-family homes only. So zoning is a way to divide land into like uses. and then you put laws and rules around those uses to protect them or to protect the uses abutting. Just because we say we're going to allow something does not mean that it's going to come, but we're just allowing an opportunity for use to be available in a certain area. And this is why you have zoning. So the planning board is the board that creates the regulations for the zoning ordinance. So the planning board writes the text and then goes through its public hearing processes to get that approved, and then it goes to town council for final approval of the language. The zoning board is the relief valve from that language. We also have a master plan, which is the overarching document for the town. It provides a vision of what the town residents and community members have said that they want the town to look like over the next 10 to 15 years. So it's kind of the to-do list of what we're doing, where we're going, and what our goals are. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I just want to say that this whole process, this whole idea of Exit 4A started back in 1984. Back in 2004, the Derry Town Council established a TIF district, which is a tax increment finance district, over in the Ash Street area. They expanded that in 2020 and called it the Gateway District. In 2022, construction started for Exit 4A, and the planning board was asked to start looking at ways we could enhance the area, make it more attractive, and bring some economic vitality to the area. So the Gateway District Committee was formed. And I do want to say we've got members of the committee here. Brian and Rich, our planning board chairman's here this evening. Members of the planning board, Tom, Dan Healy, who's also on the committee, and Bev Donovan, our economic development director, is here as well. And our trustee Caroline, who takes care of everything all the time, is here as well. And thank you for the counselors who are here, and also all of you. So here we are. Change is inevitable. We can't stop change. Things are going to progress. They're going to move. We may want things to stay the same, and as they are today. Unfortunately, we're getting creep from Massachusetts. We can't stop it. It's coming. What we can control is how things look and some of the uses that we permit. At this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Bev Donovan, who's going to talk a little bit more about the things that we probably may want to start thinking about as you start formulating some ideas about what you might want to see in the community.
Thank you. Hello, for those that don't know me, I'm Bev Donovan, Economic Development Director here in Derry. Feeling much better this time than the last time. As Liz said, there's going to be a lot of changes, but sometimes that opens up the opportunities that you might not think about. If you are somebody who wants an opportunity, this might be a good time for you. We also want to make sure everybody understands, and just like we had this discussion at the last meeting, we might not change much at all. So it really depends on the input that we get from everybody here. And taking everything into account, weighing it all out, and coming up with some recommendations that will go through the planning board process, the hearing process, and then forward to the town council. So with that said, there's just a kind of a bullet list of things that we want to go through. The first bullet, I guess we don't have it up there, is land and location. So when we look at the map, if people had a chance to look at the map, if you didn't, take a minute after the meeting and go over and look at it over on the wall. There's a lot of roadway that's going to be crisscrossing that area, so it really kind of breaks things up, and it sort of puts things down in smaller bite-sized pieces. For example, just over a dozen individual parcels between Ash Street Extension and Madden Road. Most of them are privately owned. And I think there's just over 9 acres, give or take a few, of property that's been acquired by the state, and that will go through its own process at the end of design and construction, and how that comes back to us potentially. The second thing is property owner consideration. So this is one of the most important points. Any properties that were included in the scope of the 4A project have already been or are in the process of acquisition. Other properties in that zone continue to be privately owned. Some of you might be owning those properties. No property that is privately owned would be required to be sold, and the use can stay the same, and the tax structure could stay intact. So even if we make some changes to zoning, if you decide to stay, nothing really changes from you other than maybe the scenery outside. Adding new uses might open future opportunities for property owners that might be looking to no longer stay in that area. But it's important for the town that we look to the future while being mindful of the present and the people that are there today. Community desires and vision. The community has a unique opportunity to look at the current zones and decide what, if any, changes they would like to propose to ensure well thought out economic opportunities for the future. Once the community provides input to the planning board and town council, as I said, those zoning changes, following the zoning changes, economic development will work with the property owners and any interested parties to help facilitate future economic development. Again, no requirement for any property owner to sell. Next thing, market opportunities. Given the location of all the roadways coming through there, the rights of way, other factors, the residual land does not lend itself to large scale development. However, small to mid scale opportunities would serve as more of a transitional area moving eastward toward Folsom Road. The property is on Furland Drive, which is sort of a little neighborhood off of Folsom Road, the east side of North High Street and the west side of Franklin Street. For the most part residential, and they're not likely to change too much. But again, there may be opportunities for the lots that front on Madden Road, Folsom Road, and North High. As gateway properties, there's already been positive and plentiful interest by current property owners, some, and potential investors that are looking to bring forward projects that they hope will enhance the neighborhood. Lastly, scale, size, and mass. The gateway area is bisected by several roadways and will be constrained by infrastructure and physical aspects. So my expectation is the scale of any new development will not be overwhelming to that existing neighborhood or the existing neighborhoods in that area. So that's all I have. Give it back to Liz.
Thanks, Beth. Okay, I think I'll throw this back on the zoning. So I didn't talk about that. So this is the actual zoning map for the area outlined in red, which is the area under discussion. So we have, as I said, the MHDR2, which is mainly single-family homes. You have industrial 4 and industrial 6, and we did put like the actual permitted uses are available on the wall for you, but the industrial districts are pretty broad-ranging in what they allow in those districts. Things like light industry, manufacturing, breweries, aquaponics, hydroponics, things like that. So just going to pause for a quick minute to see if there's any questions on what we've gone over. And before we get to that, I am going to let our planning board chairman have a minute. And it's Dave Nelson.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for an opportunity to focus on a couple of other aspects of what is possible. One of the things that we have done in town in various places, such as in the core downtown, is we have something called an overlay district. which sits on top of the fundamental uses and provides some specific attributes, opportunities, and potentially even restrictions on traffic and parking and the way things look. So we don't necessarily have to change one zoning district to another. We can also make this whole gateway district an overlay district and have some specific features unique to the common theme of the gateway district overlay on top of them. The other thing that we have is a very powerful tool, the architectural design regulations. I was actually kind of the granddaddy of creating that back in the day when we first did it. And it's basically a vocabulary for architectural design, and we apply it at various levels of compliance throughout the town based on the district. So for example, in the downtown traditional business overlay district, we're very strict. We want the streetscape, the verticality, kind of a downtown Nashua or downtown Portsmouth kind of look with the buildings that come right up to the street front. We want the fancy street lights. We want the parking behind. We don't have illuminated signs. So it's a little bit of a difference from the general commercial district, for example, which is surrounding that area. And if we decide as a community that we would like to allow some additional uses in what is currently predominantly residential, little art stores, little cafes, things like that, that could physically from the outside just look like a residential house. The architectural design regulations can be applied in this gateway district in a way that, yes, will allow these uses, but as we do in the downtown, we're going to require some aesthetics that overlay on top of that to make sure that for folks who continue to have single-family homes, that the business opportunities that other people may develop still look like single-family homes. That's just one example. So just keep in mind the potential tools available in terms of an overlay and the architectural design regs to make things look like you want them to look. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so at this point, before we get into the, please tell us what you want. Are there any questions on anything that we have presented this evening? And this time, so everyone can hear, we're going to ask anyone who wants to speak to come up to the mic. Just give us your name, and then you can ask your question or give us your comment as to what you would like to see. So for right now, does anyone have any questions on what we presented so far?
Hi, my name's Cheryl Shattuck, and I just want to make sure I understand, because you said it, and I think I understand. So as far as acquisition of properties, I think what I heard you say is that all of the properties that would be acquired, they've already been notified. It's already in progress. So
Yes.
nobody else that hasn't been contacted is facing any acquisition of their property.
No, the only thing that outside of the acquisition, like the actual purchasing of land, and the only thing that might happen is there may need to be some construction easements.
Okay.
For things like we need to run utility from here to here, and it needs to go here, and they might work out some construction easements with some property owners. But that's the only thing I can think of outside. And I'm looking at our town engineer who will help with that process. So.
I have two more.
Sure, of course. Sure.
I know in one of the very beginning slides, you said that the rail trail was under the state
That is.
and not under the town.
That's correct.
Has this,
No
and maybe you
decision's
don't-
the made.
no decisions have been made?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't have information on that.
All right.
Yeah.
The last question had
Sure.
to do with the explanation that we just got.
Mm-hmm.
The architectural, I'm not sure I quite understood, but we live in a two-family home on Ash Street,
Mm-hmm.
and if that was, were you saying that depending on how the area is zoned, that we could potentially like run a cafe or something out of the house,
Sure.
but make it look like,
Yes.
keep it in keeping with the houses around? Is that?
Yeah. So as you come into Derry from Londonderry on 102, that district, that's always been a residential district, but now it's more of it's office business, right? Office business. So you can have your homes, or you can have a mix of homes and business. And a lot of those structures have been converted to business use, but they retain that residential look and feel. So as you come in, you're not faced with, oh gosh, here's business all of a sudden. You still have that, as you come into Derry, you still have that small town feel that, I moved here in the 70s. It kind of still looks the same, but better. So we have the ability to put, that type of control over how an area develops and put in different types of architectural design regs. So we can say, well, sure, you can turn that into a coffee shop, or you can make that a 70-seat restaurant, but it still needs to look like this, or you need to retain these characteristics. So because you certainly don't want, you can't have everything cookie cutter and everything looking the same, because we'll be like Stepford community. We don't want that. So, but you need to allow for some differences, but not have things that look so out of whack with everything else that it just stands out and looks strange. So that's why we have the architectural design regulations.
Okay. And one last, actually, there's one more.
Yeah.
Hotels fall under what category? What zoning?
That would be, our hotels are allowed in our industrial zones, in our general commercial.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and of course.
The perfect height. Cheryl Stanion, Everett Street. I have a few questions. You just said Ash Street. Ash Street is part of my block. Are you talking Ash Street or Ash Street Extension?
So Ash Street, okay, so, where's my map again? Let me go back. Does that have the street on it? So we have, if I have it right, this is Ash Street Extension here, and this is Ash Street. So,
Ash?
is it?
No.
Oh, Corporate Park. See, thank you, Steve. So, right here? I'm like lost. So, where's Ash Street? Ash Street's the bottom. Down here. Okay. All right, yeah. So we're talking more Ash Street Extension, so I apologize for that.
Okay, so to give you an example,
Sure.
last week, I had to stop at the police station. I had to go to the bank, which is Citizens, and then I had to go to the post office, and then I had to stop at the Shenetto Medical Center.
Okay.
How is this going to affect me when I make that route that I do almost daily? I go that route. So I'm going down
So you
High
would,
Street.
yeah, you would go up High Street to a light at the intersection of North High and Madden.
And how many lanes of traffic am I going to be dealing with? How would I turn into the police station? How will I, while they're working on the other side of Shenetto, how will I be able to go to the post office and to the doctor's park if they're working on it?
So I am not, my understanding, and I may have to defer, my understanding is that as they're doing the construction, they're going to do one side so that you have traffic moving in both directions on the other, and then they'll jump it over to the other side. Same way like they do when they redid the bridge over the Merrimack on 293, they put everything on one side, did the construction on the other, then swapped it over, and then opened the whole thing. So you should not have, yes, you're going to have construction delays. We can't avoid those, but traffic is not going to be blocked from going through those areas. They're going to try and keep the 2 lanes of traffic going.
And inevitably, traffic is going to be coming up my way because people like to do a shortcut on High Street, which I'm very protective of. It's children live on that street. the sidewalks are inadequate, you have to go sidewalk, and then you have to literally cross the street to do a sidewalk, and then you have to cross again. So what are you going to protect my neighborhood, Everett Street, High Street, Ash Street? What are you going to do to protect us on that one-way road from more traffic than we're already experiencing? Three-way stop, people don't even stop, and they just step on it when they go to High Street. I don't see any police there. I think the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, which is crazy. I mean, downtown Derry, it's 25. This should be lower. I just need to know that we're going to be protected, because I don't
Okay.
see any benefits to myself and my neighborhood with what is
Okay.
happening here.
So I know that, so as always, if you have any concerns about like the traffic on your streets and enforcement or any of that, all those concerns should be brought to the Highway Safety Committee so that they can start addressing them. And then as the project's moving forward, I don't have the answers as to how like the traffic's going to flow once this construction is complete. But if there are traffic flow issues and, you know, things that people are speeding, I mean, this isn't the venue for like people who are speeding and not traveling appropriately on roadways. We're here more honestly to talk about what can we do to make this area, enhance this area to help with our taxes.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you're not enhancing our area if you're allowing traffic. I mean, isn't this something where you're going to be taking suggestions and
We
you
are.
can pass them on to the highway?
Yeah, I wrote
I'd
it
like
down.
less steps to ensure that where I've lived since the early 80s is not going to become
I know.
mayhem.
It shouldn't be a main highway. I understand that. I do understand that. And I do understand your concern. So I've written it down. So let me see what we can get for answers. But yeah, we don't know what the traffic's going to look like at the end of the day. And it could be more, it could be less. We know what the traffic's going to look like essentially on Folsom. We know there's going to be at least 18,000 more cars a day on that, but it's being built to accommodate that. But that's also out to 2040. That's not 2030. So, you know, we need to see how it all plays out there. But we'll.
And I'm seeing where Ash Street Extension is. It's all like taped and marked. What am I to expect when I'm driving and I get to Ash Street Extension when this is done?
I would actually invite you to come in and sit down and look at the what I have for plans for that area, rather than taking up time in this venue.
Well, I've looked at the plans and they're not very explanatory.
They're not final. That's why. That's why. But we can take a look at the plans together and see what we can see there, and then we can also talk to DOT.
My name's Don Worth. I have a question regarding the monetary part of it. I think you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was an $8 million project that you got.
This whole project to construct is going to be 80 million or more. Derry paid 5, and Londonderry paid 5.
So did Derry carry a bond for the 5?
I want to say
Is what?
yeah, it's
Already
already been
paid?
paid. Yeah. I was going to say that's long gone. We've already paid it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious
Yeah.
how that was going to impact property taxes.
Not at all.
Okay. Answers that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions about the presentation, and then we can start moving into, of course.
Yeah, hi. I just have Bob Modrak from Chancellor Drive. You mentioned about the overlay district. So that you could actually change or put something restrictive on, like industrial 4. What I'm looking at is we see a lot of, nothing against automobile dealerships, but used car dealerships and stuff like that. I would hate to see some property that's better access through 4A and
Sure.
have a, a used car lot or a storage facility or something like that.
Sure,
So
yeah.
I noticed that the District 4 could be potentially used cars and all that type of stuff. Is there?
Right. Yep. Okay.
Can worms. So It's hard to have a lot of different districts in town because that makes administration really complicated. So we have a relatively small number of districts. And industrial is really intended for high-level commercial and light industrial uses. We don't really have any heavy industry in Derry. I would consider that like, you know, a steel mill. We clearly have nothing like that. But if we were to come up with a vision as a community group for the Gateway area that the kind of economic development and improvement that we'd like to see is meeting particular community needs, such as little boutique shops, more coffee houses, you know, small entertainment venues, more arts, culture, recreation kind of things, as opposed to large box stores or factories or warehouses. We could certainly create an overlay and say, okay, within this district, you know, there's an overlay that controls the uses beyond which the underlying industrial district 4 might suggest. So it's a tool that allows us to fine tune the uses without having to actually rezone major areas. But it all depends upon what the vision is, right? And I wouldn't prejudge that. So all I'm saying is it's a tool that when we come up with an idea, a vision, and there's some commonality in what people would like, it's one of the tools we can use to make that happen easily. And Elizabeth is going to indicate how we did that in the traditional business overlay district. It was all originally part of general commercial. But when we made it the traditional business overlay district, we have specific requirements that are not applied to general commercial, such as zero setback from the sidewalk. We want that downtown streetscape look, parking behind the building, electric lines, utilities behind the buildings, enhanced architectural, if you look in history, no neon signs, no internally lit signs, so it looks a little bit more quaint New England town streetscape style. We actually had an architect come in back in the day when we did that. His name was Ruben Ehring. He's no longer with us, but he was one of the movers and shakers in coming up with a vision for downtown Dover, for example. So it's a tool, and if it's appropriate, we can use it and apply it. Does that make sense? Am I explaining myself clearly?
You could restrict it within the district that's defined right now. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we want to start going into the, it's got to go the other way. Why we're here, we want to hear your thoughts. And I think, we want to know, is there anything you like about your area now? What do you think it will look like in 10 years? I mean, if you want to comment on those things, please feel free. What do you think will encourage new business, retain new businesses, and what do you think will be compatible uses for these green areas? And I did hear, can we start off with putting, protect the residential areas outside of the district and do what we can, to reach that goal? I heard that. I heard use of architectural design elements or an overlay. Okay. So we want to hear from you. Can't be just us like brainstorming or whatever. So we really do want to hear. Please come up, offer your thoughts, your suggestions, and let's see where this can go, because it really all starts with you and your vision, because this is your town.
Hi, my name is Kathy McDonald, and I passed out the handout having to do with the rail trail. And I think the rail trail is a great asset for the town. People enjoy it. I hear outside of the town people saying, "Derry, that's where the rail trail is." So my thinking is we have to balance the vision with the reality of what you're possibly going to have in that gateway district should you have this workaround. And if you have 1,000 people per day going down a path that you're looking to rezone as commercial, and 40,000 cars are coming off the highway and taking a right-hand turn into a commercial district, and that path has 1,000 people per day walking or on bikes, you have some real safety concerns. So I just ask that you give some thought to how you're going to plan that out, because we don't want any accidents. We don't want any fatalities, you know. So safety, and I'm encouraged that you brought up safety in the past. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. We have, yep. So pedestrian safety enhancements, maybe depending on what it all ends up looking like, maybe similar to what we have on Broadway. We've got a couple of those pedestrian lights on Broadway, which have really helped. I know, especially down on Bowers Road, it's helped a lot with people on the rail trail. So you come on up.
Cheryl Stanion, Everett Street. So there used to be a lot of trees down there. They're all cut down. With all those cars, with the new lanes on 93 where I live, at night with the windows down, I can hear the traffic like it's right in my back door. So now I'm going to have this exit ramp, on-ramp, whatever it is, on the opposite side. What are you going to do to protect the other neighborhoods from noise pollution and light pollution from the businesses?
Okay, yeah, so we need residential buffering in those districts.
I mean, this is really frustrating for me because I really don't see how what is being put in is benefiting the people that actually live in that area. I see that it's benefiting people in East Derry and Chester, but I'm not seeing, I mean, if you can't get businesses to work in downtown, how are you going to get businesses to work on that thoroughfare down there? I just,
Bev might be able to speak to that a little bit better than I can.
Sure. Again, it's not a Town of Derry project. It's a state project and a federal project. So unfortunately for us, we are, our goal, our work is to deal with what happens when they're through. Buffering is definitely going to be an issue. Hear that? And through the planning process, whatever businesses are going to go in there, they will have to go through a whole review process through the town. Things like lighting get addressed during that process. Buffering gets addressed during that process.
I do want to talk about the businesses. Now, the last meeting that I came to with this, people were mentioning the potato chip factory. And I didn't know what they were talking about until last week when I stopped at the police station and I got out of my car, and the smell was so nauseating of the oil and the potato chip, whatever they're doing there. My husband thought I was joking. Well, he had to go there later, and he said, I can't believe this. And there's a noise, there's like a winding noise that was really audible, that people were talking about it that live in that neighborhood. I don't want anything like that. I want to be able to end my days in the house that I've lived in since the early 80s, not having to smell that. What are you going, I mean, that's on
Well,
Derry's
sometimes
end.
we don't know that those things are happening. So if there's a question of, noise pollution or a smell or something, that's something we can maybe take a look at. We can write that down. Maybe it's just a simple adjustment for the noise that they can do to the fan.
But the smell too. I mean, we were
Yeah.
outside shoveling last Thursday, and all of a sudden there was an overwhelming smell.
Yeah.
And excuse me for this description, but it smelled like a combination of chicken soup and armpit.
Sure.
And at first I was checking myself, but then all of a sudden I looked at my dogs are outside, and their heads are all up. That lasted for over half hour.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I can't answer that
Overwhelming.
question, but it's something we can ask both
But
code
I mean, you
enforcement and the
allowed the
owner.
potato chip factory to go
Sure.
in as is. What?
So what you're talking about, that potato chip chip factory is there by what we call by right. That means it's zoned correctly. It's allowed to go there. Until somebody goes in there and starts production, we wouldn't necessarily know that that smell was going to exist. So all we can do is try to work with the owner, you know, through whatever.
Well, it would be really great if you set up a watchdog type thing to get
So-
things before they go in, so that you really find out exactly what these people are going to be doing instead of waiting for it to go in.
Again, they're doing it by right. So the equipment is the equipment. There's only so much control we can have. I mean, we can't regulate something that isn't known or
But I
isn't
mean,
there.
for the gateway thing, you can
Same
control
thing.
that.
So what we're talking about tonight is uses. So if you're saying, I don't want any more potato chip factories because I don't like the smell, that's something we can put down on this
Okay,
list to be
I don't
considered.
like potato chip factories because I
Okay,
definitely
now we're
don't
getting
like the
somewhere.
smell. I used to
That's
like
the kind of
potato
stuff that
chips,
somebody
but
else
now-
said they didn't want more used car lots. That's something we can talk about. But things that, you know, I see this all the time online. People will say, I don't want another bank or hair or nail salon. Those are considered retail uses. Retail is allowed by right. So we can't say, we have enough nail salons, you can't come. We can't do that.
Well, I do have one constructive thing then.
No tips.
No, besides no chips. Food shopping. So I normally go to Market Basket in Londonderry because the Shaw's and Derry is empty shelves and they charge outrageous prices. The Hannaford's charges outrageous prices. So Market Basket is affordable for my income, and I know I'm not alone. But with all the housing that they've put in around that, I go in there and it's overwhelming. It's packed
Yeah.
all day long. Can we have our own Market Basket in Derry?
If the zoning allows for that and they want to come and they see a market here, then they would absolutely come. People ask me all the time, you know, why don't we have a Trader Joe's? We don't
Into
match.
Trader Joe's, yes.
The retailers don't just come. They come because there's a market. They come because they can make money in a certain area, or there's an appropriate place where they could locate. So we can put things in the zoning that encourages them to come, but we can't control who ultimately comes.
But you could woo them in a way.
Oh, we
saying,
try.
Here we have this new exit ramp, and
Yeah.
it goes to East Derry and
Yeah.
Chester, where there's lots of money. I'm sure they would love to stop at a Trader
Sure.
Joe's. Just
We
that
put
way.
it out there.
I will help you.
We put it out there. If they find that there's a match, they'll certainly come. And there's so much more than just zoning. They're looking at traffic data. They're looking at credit card data. They're looking at so many things. And believe me, they're all looking at everything. If we match their description, they will come. If we can't match their description, we can't woo them. It's just the way that is. And I know there's some commercial brokers here that can nod to that too. And it is what it is. I would love a Trader Joe's in this area myself, but can't make them come.
Hi, I'm Steve Shudo, and going on the same theme of getting businesses to come, and I understand you can't make them come, but it would be nice if Derry had a hotel. I have some
Hear, hear.
business guests coming at the end of the month, and I had to put them up in a hotel in Manchester, which, you know,
Boo hiss.
I don't believe that there is one hotel left in Derry, so, and I know you can't make them come, but,
Well, the good news is 2 hotel groups do want to be here.
oh, great.
We
What-
just have to change zoning and find them the spots that
What-
match their,
Are they kind of mid-market?
I really don't want to say right now,
Okay.
but
Kind of
there is
like a-
interest.
Yeah, kind of like a Hampton Inn type, that type of hotel, mid-market.
We're hoping to get a
Okay.
hotel.
Great, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Tom Carden. I'm going to start off with a couple of things I said at the last meeting, and that is I don't want to see any apartments over there. I think we've got enough. We've got enough on the planning,
No multifamily?
and I don't want to see any municipal buildings only because we're not getting any taxable income from them.
Okay.
But you know, I know a couple of people have talked about protecting the residents in that area, and that would be number one on my list. You know, I feel bad for them that they've got this big exit coming through, but I think we should do whatever we can do to help protect those people.
I agree.
And you know what we need commercial development, and unfortunately, from this map and a lot of the other maps that I've looked at, there doesn't look like there's a whole lot of area for future development, especially when you look over the line and where Woodmont is, and they have 218 acres. They have a boatload of land over there that they're going to develop, and which also, you know, and the other thing, I know I asked it at the last meeting, but I also think that the town should be working with, you know, with Woodmont and the town of Londonderry. I mean, just for conversation, so that we, you know, so that we're both on the same page on what, you know, on what the development is going to be.
Yeah, thank you for that. I did meet with the Londonderry town planner 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, and I know the person talked about the rail trail, and you know, I know there's a lawsuit. I don't know where that's going, or I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that. But I haven't heard anybody from the Derry Rail Trail Alliance. I think they should be part of the conversation too, to see what needs that they have for, you know, whether it's the spaghetti loop or the tunnel. You know, I've always considered the rail trail kind of one of the cornerstones of economic development in town.
So are you looking for like recreational amenities, like convenience amenities, or,
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
places
sure.
for them to stop and eat,
Yes.
or?
Yeah, some type of, I mean, whether it's, you know, benches along the route, or, you know, for a rest stop or whatever, but,
Okay.
you know, something that enhances that. And I guess that's just about all I have. You know, I want to, also the, you know, I like what's in area 4 and area 6. I like the zoning for both of those.
Thank you.
No, I do. It's going to be perfect for that area. But I also like the idea of the overlay for those areas too. You know, I noticed that you know, when you make the right-hand turn there off of North High, that there's a lot of residents there, and I think maybe an overlay could kind of help protect them.
Thank you.
And so, and lastly, I'm glad you're going through this process, and I hate to be critical, but
No, constructive criticism is
But
good, because,
I
you know,
think it-
mics in the room are helpful.
yeah, I think it should have started like a while ago. I mean, I know you're just newly on board, so you know, we certainly can't say anything to you about that. But I think you said it should be ready by August.
I would think so. So
that would be good.
Depending on what comes out of, you know, this session, and then on the 24th, and then in the bigger session. So make sure you all come back in April. You know, whenever we get that,
Yeah.
we'll take that, and then the planning board will start its workshop process.
Okay.
And generally, once we have a really good draft to work with, we schedule the public hearing. Planning board holds the public hearing. If there are no changes, then it moves immediately up to town council. So you know, it takes a little bit to get through the town council agenda process. And then once town council approves the zoning changes, we have a 30-day wait period before it becomes effective. So in looking at the timing, it looks like probably end of August, any zoning changes would be effective. But once the planning board posts changes for a public hearing, they are kind of in effect until
Okay.
denied.
Yeah, good. I think your August date is optimistic, but
Yeah. I am optimistic, Tom. Come
good,
on.
good for you. Well, then, okay, good. Then push. All right, I'll take Dave for
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
word. You know. So thank you.
Thank you. I know there's more people who have comments and suggestions.
West Shattuck on Ash Street. And not to belabor the point, but I know when things get registered, the number of people who bring concerns forward and hopes can have an effect. So my hope goes back to something that I understand, the rail trail. It's out of your control. That's more the state project. But I'd like to just register that's my greatest concern, what's going to happen with the traffic flow and for safety. And I believe I've seen it that the positive benefits of that rail trail for economic development, but just for the town. It's Derry's the place to be.
It
and
is.
That's part of the reason.
It is. And I thank you. I appreciate that. I know a lot of work has been done, to make sure that we get that connection all the way through to the Londonderry town line. And, I will credit my predecessor, George Sears, for working very hard on that.
Yeah.
That's something he worked on for a very long time to get that whole rail trail connection. And DPW is tremendously instrumental in that whole process. It was definitely, it's a project that the town is pretty connected to. And the things that the Arts Council did to make that trail even more attractive, especially when there's so many people out utilizing it, 2019, 2021. It is a key piece to our economic development in the downtown, and we want to continue that moving forward and be able to capitalize that on this area too.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Cheryl Shattuck on Ash Street again. Just a comment, as far as the rail trail goes, currently, and I know this isn't part of the Derry jurisdiction, I get that, but a lot of rail trail traffic, especially people on bicycles, and I know from experience, travel down Avenue A, and there's a connecting over a closed bridge that connects to Codyville Road and Londonderry. A lot of bikes use that closed bridge, and I know that's probably not the safest thing in the world, but just a comment.
Okay, so no closed bridges? I'm not sure where you're going with that.
No closed
Yeah.
bridges, but
Okay.
just to pass on to the state that it would be really nice to have like a really safe connection
Between the
versus-
two? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak that would like us to just bring a mic to them? Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Johnson, and I was part of the planning board when this was first proposed, before 1984, first discussed. And the purpose of Exit 4A, as it was originally proposed, was to bring some development into Derry that was not residential. And I would support Mr. Cardin's position that it's very important that the whole area be closed to residential development of any kind. Condos, stores with apartments above them, because the cost of children in school, well, I support schools. The cost of children in schools is close to $20,000 apiece now, which is a lot of tax dollars. So I would like first and foremost that there be no residential development at all within that district.
Okay.
I would probably, if it were up to me, make the whole thing, you'd have to show the map because you have two different industrial zones marked. One is marked as 4 and the other is marked as industrial V.
Oh, 6, sorry. The one that goes with the V ended up on the road.
Okay. I would like to see the whole thing zoned industrial 6 with all of the current houses grandfathered in as residential properties.
Okay, and no mixed use. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Nope. Okay. All right, am I going the wrong way?
Hi, Brian Fishman, member of the planning board. I just wanted to mention I did capture this gentleman's comment about the used car lots or the desire not to have anymore, as well as I believe you said storage facilities. Yeah, self-storage. Yep, we captured that. Ms. Robideau brought up cafes as a potential use in the MHDR. I did not capture that. Is that a comment from the public that is supported? Is something that we want to capture?
Maybe we can do the, anyone Bueller. And I guess I should have the mic so that they get me at home. We've heard some ideas, and I'm one of those people who spend probably way too much time on social media, reading about all of the things that people would love to see in Derry, and then I comment, like, well, if that were to come, would you actually go there routinely and give them your custom and your dollars? Because that's what makes things work in the free enterprise world. So, for example, if we were to have a little cafe, like The Grind, or like any of the other small cafes in the general downtown area, how many people who live in this area would go and give your custom to a cafe that was in walkable distance? Raise your hands. 2, 3. Okay. Because this is something that the planning board is going to have to think about, because having a nifty idea that only one person in town would give their custom to is not going to be able to survive, and Bev is not going to be able to sell them on the market opportunities to come. So if we had a little, art gallery, how many people would visit that? Nope. Okay. How about a little, music, a little coffee house with some music, live music occasionally? Would people? Oh, yeah, we get a number of people that would attend that. How about a little mom and pop grocery store? I'm not promising we could do that, because I don't think that's actually in the current economic model. But if we were to find someone who wanted to do that, how many people would go to a little mom and pop grocery store as opposed to the larger supermarkets?
Could I expand on that? Are you talking, when you say the mom and pop thing, are you talking about like the East Derry General Store? Like that
Yeah.
kind of mom and pop thing?
Yeah. Slightly bigger than a convenience store, gas station kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you do that when there's 3 supermarkets within a 5-minute drive of this district?
Well, Carolyn, good to see you again, by the way.
Pardon?
Good to see you again, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm trying to tease out some ideas, because this is one of the challenges of figuring out uses, because we have to figure out uses that will actually make economic sense in the 21st century, right? And so some of the things that people are very, nostalgic for, may not be economically viable. This is going to date me, but one of the guys who was well known in the state of New Hampshire, and he was director of the then Office of State Planning, Jeff Taylor. His story was there's really only 2 master plans in New Hampshire. One is to preserve the classic New England downtown with all of its walkable streets and small stores and commercial opportunities, and 2, to preserve agricultural and rural environment. But now in the 21st century, we're losing most of our agriculture in Derry. The smaller stores are losing to the bigger box stores, or, Lord forbid, to Amazon. How many people in this room during COVID got in the habit of buying almost everything you need online? I'll admit it. So I think that if we can come up with some ideas that we can sell to our neighbors, and that we can get people to go on a regular basis to give them custom and give them revenue flow, that will mean that whatever that good idea is going to survive, and it's going to be there for more than like 6 months. So that's why I'm trying to tease out some of these potential ideas for this area that people would like to have. Maybe we can flip this around and say, for those things that you wouldn't necessarily prefer to give custom to, but you would not object. No, for example, a doctor's office, little specialist office. How many people would object to having that? I mean, I hate to go to doctors, so I can't say that I would like to go, but it does provide tax income for a commercial environment. It doesn't bring students into the schools. And so there are the things we would like to have because we'd like to go to them. And there's the things we wouldn't mind to have because they're going to give us non-impactful tax relief. So those are the kind of things, I'm just putting out some seeds in people's minds.
So, Jack Webb and Drew Woods, East Derry. I'm also one of your at-large counselors. And one of my visions for this area might be not necessarily pleasing to some people, but when we're talking about the industrial area, we would look at something that brings in higher paying jobs. Cafes and art districts and these places, they're minimum wage to above minimum wage jobs. Brookstone recently brought in a small manufacturer research facility. They're high paid jobs. So I'd like to see in that industrial zone, particularly things, maybe a small to medium sized machine shop. Maybe some other, similar to like Huntsman, which is, they're a manufacturing research, very quiet, actually a wonderful neighbor off of Kendall Pond Road. Again, these people bring in high-paying jobs. And not only is that important, even if they don't live in the community, they will be going to, a future cafe that might be developed in somebody's house. They might be the custom that does that. I was in Tewksbury today, going to Treehouse Brewery, end up somewhere else, but going through an industrial area, a small one. And I did see a small little strip mall, typical Dunkin' Donuts, pizza place and sub place, surrounded by industrial property. And my wife was, who would go there? I go, all the people that work around in this industrial area. And that's really what we should be looking at, that zone, is developing the small businesses, 25, 50, 75 employees, that bring in the jobs. And that some of the things that people want, such as the cafes or other, may follow on as that market need develops.
Thanks, Jack.
Yes. Kerry Davis. I understand where you're coming from with the Arts Council. What we've got to remember, we have Manchester to the north of us, a lot of development in Salem, and we've got a tier 1 city in Boston, all within driving distance. If people are going to want a night out, they're going to head to Boston, Manchester, Salem. I think we need to concentrate on the previous gentleman's comments. Got to get the industry in here, and the rest will follow. Second observation, post-18 education. Expand trade schools. Those are going to create higher paying jobs. Obviously, all the youngsters will not stay in the area, but at least we'll keep a percentage of them every single year. That's, I think, another way to look at how we would like to develop this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, trade schools. It's very important. I think we heard a statistic at FutureCast in the last week. Our electricians and plumbers are going to be our new millionaires, which is no lie. Okay, Ralph.
Good evening, Ralph Valentine. So these gentlemen, I think, hit a good point. So what I wanted to ask about is there sufficient capacity and supply of water and sewer to these areas? So supply, and then getting rid of the waste, and then the size of the pipes, is it big enough while we're gonna have roads open to do, you know, especially a machine shop or a lab or someplace that uses a lot of water and needs some sewer capacity?
Can I defer to you on that?
Good evening, Mark LaRue, Engineering Coordinator for Public Works. You definitely have capacity in our system for delivery of water. Sewer collection is kind of spotty once you get beyond those intersections going towards Londonderry. But Derry's more or less covered in its zone with this project going forward. So these existing lots that may be repurposed should have the ability to be serviced by sewer, and water will be adequate. There's going to be a lot of rework on utility installations, and the capacity will be there for any kind of user. And there's good pressures in those areas.
So do we know about natural gas?
Yes, as part of the utility reconstruction, all the poles, electrical lines, all those are going to be relocated, and National Grid is going to, or Liberty Utilities is going to run a new gas line down that corridor as well.
Thank you. And those are all really important things for when businesses are looking for sites. They're looking for that water, sewer, and gas. And I do want to go back to Mr. Davis's point. We've been trying for a really long time to, coordinate between some of the community colleges, Pinkerton, and the universities to kind of enhance opportunities for our kids who don't want to go on to the traditional college education and who want to advance themselves in the trades. It is an incredibly important piece of our, just the way we live. My own son he's going to be sitting for his journeyman's test this week, and I'm extremely proud. Like, yeah. But I have kids who have gone through the whole 4 years. It's all important. All types of education for our kids are important, and we need to offer those opportunities for kids who don't want to do the traditional path. And I'm hoping that that's something, I'm not saying that we might get a trade school that locates here, but locating businesses here who would offer internship opportunities or, have the types of businesses where our kids can intern would be super helpful in, helping them decide where they're going, because they are our future. Any other ideas, comments, suggestions?
Excuse me, if there are additional ideas or whatnot.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that everyone can hear
Sorry
you.
about that.
That's okay.
Don Worth again. If there are additional ideas that people have, can they submit them somehow or
Please.
someplace?
Yeah, you're leading right into my next section. I got to go the right way though. So yes, so next steps. If you do have any additional suggestions, questions, concerns, always feel free to give me a call or Caroline a call in the planning office, or you can email us at what are we, Derry Planning at derrynh.org. And our next step is we will have our last visioning session, which will be for that blue area on the 24th. We're going to take a little bit of time to gather up all of the comments and kind of get them in a more cohesive format, and then bring them back to a public meeting where we would like you to come. And it'll be a little bit, probably, I'm imagining, more of a traditional thing where we're like, okay, this is what we heard the most of, how would you guys, how would you rate these, and get that type of input so that the planning board knows what the priority is from the community, so it can start making its informed decisions moving forward. So we'll take a look at that and then start moving forward towards those zoning changes. Public is always welcome at all the planning board meetings, even our, during our workshops. And we definitely would like people to come when it comes time for the public hearings to have your voice heard. And so, thank you. So I will say that this presentation has been posted on the Gateway tab, as well as everything that's on the wall over there. So the discussion areas, the zoning maps are all up, and the zoning uses are all up. In case you want to refer to those, maybe you're sitting around having a cup of coffee over the weekend watching the snow, and you're like, you know what, I really would like to see a blah, blah, blah. Email us, let us know that. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your attention this evening. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.